this opportunity to remember a wonderful man, my father. My name is Mark Allen. I'm going to start us off here today with a little prayer.
The good thing about being in charge is that you can put yourself first when you need to be. Thank you so much for coming. Man is that he might have joy. And if there was ever a man who knew how to have joy, it was Bob Allen. And today we're here to honor a very delightful man. Someone obviously who really liked everybody. He had a ready smile and a very warm bear hug for everyone. He loved to hug the women most, actually. I know that many of you are not aware of the circumstances surrounding Bob's passing, so I will address that at this time. Last Sunday morning, I took Bob into the hospital because he was having trouble breathing and was not feeling very comfortable. And when we went in, they discovered that he had pneumonia, or a slight case in his upper right lobe of his right lung. And they started pumping him full of antibiotics, and they of course hoped that that would help him. And I thought that, of course, that he was coming home, so I ran home to pull myself together. And within 20 minutes, the hospital had called, and now it is 9 o'clock. And they said the pneumonia has filled both of his lungs. We need to put, or intubate is what they call when they put a breathing tube down your lungs. And I said, don't do that until I get there. I do want to talk to him first. And I got there, and he, of course, was having trouble breathing. He had a mask over his face. 100% oxygen, and yet it just wasn't working well enough for him. So we spoke briefly, and of course then they intubated him, and things just never really got better after that. They worked very hard. We had a delightful nurse who his name is Paul, and he just worked so hard on Bob. He did everything he could to keep him here. And I had called Craig, Bob's oldest son, who came immediately to help me make the choices that needed to be made. And Jason, the next sundown, or whatever order, he came shortly thereafter. We discussed Bob's wishes. We had a friend who a week earlier had passed away from very, very similar circumstances. And so with that being on our minds, we had had the opportunity to discuss what Bob wanted to have done. So it was very clear in all of our minds. And by 1 o'clock, his left lung was filling. They discussed the opportunity or the option of putting him in a type of bed whose name I can't remember, but it's kind of like turns the body like a rotisserie chicken. So, to keep his lungs moving. And because, again, this friend who had passed away the week before had been in that bed, he had said at that time, absolutely not put me in one of those things. And so, we told the doctor that was not something we could do, and that they could do whatever they needed to, but that was not one of the options. And so they tried. If you fill Bob up with liquid to help his blood pressure go up, it would fill his lungs. If you didn't put the liquid in him, his blood pressure would go down, and he wasn't doing well at all anyway. So as the afternoon wore off, the children were able to gather, and by 4 o'clock, Bob went home. I know he was very happy to see his mother, who he had not seen since he was 19. And I know that he was just delighted to see my parents. My father was his best friend and his surrogate father while he was here, and they had a great relationship. It was an awful day, but by the same token, Bob had always said, I want to go quickly, I don't want to hang around. And despite the fact that he does not consult me, the planner of all events in our lives, he did exactly as he wanted. I would like to keep my remarks very brief because I do want to be able to give our speakers just a few more minutes in. And of course, we would like you to have the opportunity to stand and say something. We've got a chair up front here if you just want to come and sit down and just come up here. And we're looking for some wonderful, fond, fun, quirky, weird memories of Bob. If you don't feel comfortable coming up here, we would invite you to go over to the table here on the right. There's plenty of papers. Sign your name, write a memory, whatever you are most comfortable with. Also, we do have lots of pictures of Bob here. We invite you to look at those. At this time, I would like all of Bob's children, that is yours, the mine, and the ours, to please stand along with grandchildren. Sorry, when I'm in charge, you kind of have to do things, all right? Okay, combined, Bob's and my family, we're 11 children. We have had 37 grandchildren now, with 38 on the way, and we have 5 great-grandchildren. These are the treasures that Bob has left me. This is my golden pod at the end of the rainbow. And these are the people that he loved and I love. And I'm most grateful to him for that opportunity. Now, thank you. You can all sit down now. Thank you. Just last week, Bob and I were at a seminar together, and they discussed something I'd never heard of before. It was called an ethical will. And this is what I know Bob would like to leave with you. Bob had many fine qualities, and those qualities are what he leaves here. And an ethical will is the values that you have learned during your life and that you wish to pass on when you leave this earth. So whatever great qualities that Bob had, I would encourage not only his children and our family, but also all of you who are our extended family, to take with you and to carry on and to spread your love in your community and in your family. So thank you everyone for coming. You'll hear about this often. And I do want to just end with this. Is for those of you who read the comics, this is the Pickles comic. And Bob truly felt that this cartoon artist, Brian Crane, lived in our living room, because there are so many cartoons in here that truly describe our situation. This book is entitled, How Come I Always Get Blamed for the Things I Do? And that was truly what happened at our house. And Bob wanted to write on the cover, Bob and Catherine, but since I don't have white hair, I declined that. So we invite you to look through those things. We want you to enjoy Bob's pictures and the history of his life. We have a wonderful video up here that will be playing towards, I guess, whenever the videographer does that. So, thank you. Oh, I should probably explain, Bob did get cremated. If you'd like to say a few words to him, he's over here on the table in the silver urn, as the usher is showing you. And that was also according to his wishes. And if you'll please indulge me, I'm going to take a picture of all of you. Thank you for coming. Okay. All right. This might be rather irreverent, but Bob would really like it. Okay. Here we go. We're going to have to do a lot of zooming when this is over. Okay, Craig. Stella. All right, guys. Thank you. Everybody smile. Yeah, everybody smile. All right, and we will follow the program as it's outlined. That is
says Bob, I don't know if I should say Bob or Dad or. So it says Bob was born June 21st, 1938, in Los Angeles, California, to Marianne Ann Pearson. He grew up in the Sacramento area. He loved the Northern California mountains, hiking, exploring, riding his bike, and being adventurous. I don't have a lot of memories of my dad when I was younger, but the ones I do have involved those activities. In 1959, Bob married Bonnie Lee Dunn, my mother, and as an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Bob loved working with the youth. For years, he taught seminary and worked in the scouting program. He was a scout executive in California and also worked for Junior Achievement, California Division of Forestry, as well as the California Conservation Corps. He truly loved the outdoors and taught his family his love of forestry, conservation, camping, hiking, fishing, and exploring. In 1982, the family moved to Provo, Utah. After his divorce, Bob married Catherine S. Golden in 1987. With the birth of a new son in 1988, their combined families consisted of 11 children. In Provo, Bob became active in the civic activities and the cultural arts. For years, he actively served on one local organization after another. The Franklin neighborhood particularly benefited from his leadership, where he served for nearly a decade as its neighborhood chairman. He organized countless Paint Your Heart Out events, aided with Provo City's annual Children's Celebration of the Arts, and assisted with the summer Provo Farmers Market. Bob engineered the first model block program with the City Municipal Council. In addition to nonstop serving in various capacities in the LDS Church, Bob loved volunteering at the Kennedy Center for the Arts. He was so regular and dependable, theater management designated the theater entrance Bob's door as his own unique place to greet and welcome art-centered guests. All who knew Bob loved him. He was always willing to serve and lend a hand. He was the first to volunteer, the last to leave, and he didn't much care who got the credit. He was an easy conversationalist and quick with a smile and a hug. He was always ready with a sincere compliment and a kind word. And in spite of the pain of an accident, illness, or heartache, he was unfailingly cheerful and upbeat, often cheering his consolers more than he was consoled. A friend once called him stately, and she was right. Bob was a stately soul with a huge heart. How we will miss his gentle, kindly presence, his soft sense of humor, and his ready smile. We know such goodness is not extinguished. Bob has just moved to a higher, more refined sphere of service, love, and kindness. Well, he will perfect those skills and gifts that are so much a part of his life on earth. Bob is survived by his loving and devoted wife, Catherine, and 11 children. Kathy and Desmond Rutland, Craig and Delora Allen, David and Jolia Allen, Mark and Donnie Allen, Jason and Molly Allen, Diana and Corey Larson, Brittany Golden, Strider Golden, Dallas and Rebecca Golden, Aubrey Golden, Stratton and Anna Allen. He is also survived, as Catherine mentioned, by 37 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. 4 of those are mine. I was a friend of Catherine's, from what I understand, and Catherine wrote this, and I changed it a little bit. And I read this, I was having a hard time kind of thinking of what I would say about my dad. I don't have a lot of memories, but like I said, the ones I do have are the outdoors and camping and going on trips and everything. And those really did affect my life. To this day, I love doing those type of things with my family. And we went on many trips together. But just want to leave that with you and know that you will be missed. Thank you.
All this paper is not because I'm nervous, because of the tons of people that are here. It's because I have a pinched neck and causes my hand to shake. Bob gave me some instruction about speaking one time. talking about a funeral we had. He says, you get in a tough spot, talk real low. Because that forces the throat right out of your throat, and you can talk again. So if I talk real low, you don't have to forgive me. It's because I really love you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grandchildren, loved ones. I'm here today to give a short talk. Well, not a talk, but a kind of a eulogy. No, maybe just to tell you about my association with this guy named Bob. Just recollect on my time and the mortal life that I have with a good friend, a buddy, that I had a pleasure to know and get together with whenever we had time. And Catherine asked me to give a short something or other at this wake. No, it's not a wake, get together, yeah. Tribute, or whatever you want to call it. Let's call it a celebrating of Bob's life. He'd like that. He never was one to seek praise because he just liked doing things with people. Anyway, when she asked me in relief, I thought, no way. There's no way of getting up there in front of 5,000 people, shaking and being nervous. But before I could turn her down, a fleeting moment of weakness came over me, and I thought, why not? I love the guy. Why not tell it like it is? So I hastily said, okay, needless to say, I'm not going to get through this, but the old puckering of the lip, or the silent grip of tear running down my cheek. So let's give it a try. I've known Bob for about 20 years, Dick. You're there. I met him through the association of my wife, Carol, and Catherine. It was long enough ago that I can't really remember just how, but I distinctly remember this large man with a great sense of humor, easy to talk to, and quite a sincere one to get to know me of all people. Well, it did take long to understand that I wanted to get to know him better also. And over the years, we have become and are very good and close friends. Friends, you know, I have a friend, and I have friends, and then you have a friend that no matter what happens, that they're always there, sometimes just out of the blue. And for no reason or rhyme, you decide to call them up, or they call you, and the phone will ring, and there they are. I haven't had a ton of friends like that, but I can tell you that I consider Bob one of those friends. We both had a bad habit. Well, not a really bad habit. But when we call one another, we weren't always the fastest to get back to each other. It might take a day or two, or a week. So I'd get worried, and I'd say, well, Bob hadn't called me right back after a day or two. I'd talk to Carol, and I'd say, I wonder if Bob's really ticked off with me because I didn't call him right back. And I don't know what he thought about me, because I've always been kind of late. No sooner I said that than the phone would ring. There's this voice on the other side. Hello, good buddy. Is this the one and only TW? I gotta talk real low. And get this. Sorry, buddy, I didn't get back to you sooner. Isn't that just like you? Wouldn't wait until I was grumbling and apologizing to him. He just had to be him. Always so nice. Nice to me. Nice guy. One couldn't ask for a better friend. I know that he was that way with all the people he associated with. He just was so easy to get to know. And he was sincerely interested in you. He always was in my life. You know the celebration is about Bob. There's no shrine or anything, but I'll tell you about a place in my living room that I've always considered kind of a shrine for my buddy Bob. Over the years, it became evident that we both had a liking for football games, BYU especially, other special games in the Super Bowl, etc. But we liked watching them together and with our families. So we decided to watch as many games as we could together. I liked Carol, Catherine, and Bob, and I were the mainstays, but anyone could come and have a ball. The more the merrier. You would always say, what can we bring? I'll cook something or other. Stop off and buy something. And offer all these things. That's just the way Catherine and Bob are. He wanted it to be fun, simple, and great. He liked to have good food. Things like the little wieners, the shrimp, oh yeah, the coconut pie, maybe a little frog egg salad. Seemed to like that. But back to my story. Something new, but not old, is a white couch, leather couch that sits in front of our 60-inch TV. Right side of it, right in front of the TV. Between the stereo speakers and about 8 feet away. Make that about 6.5 feet away from Bob. That is Bob's place. No trading, no secrets, sneaking in. Even the dog Moose, whose place it was when Bob wasn't there, knew better than to sit there. I'd hand the clicker and say go to it. We, of course, should have been the coaches of all the teams and look out for the referees. But this week when I get home from work, I'm sitting next to the couch, reminded me, guess who? My buddy Bob. As long as we have that couch, and it's in the same place, it will always be kind of my shrine for Bob. But I know that it wasn't just the ball game why we got together. It was the brothership, just like getting to visit, whoop and holler, be in one another's company, just that way. Family, I know that you know anybody that knew Bob knew how much he loved his family. He was always ready to let you know how everybody was, from his oldest to his youngest, daughter, son-in-laws, grandkids, and everybody. Kids spread from North Carolina to Idaho, Utah. It didn't matter. He always knew how they were, and most of all, he liked to tell you about it. I'm not saying he knew everything, but he knew how much he cared because he tried. He never had a derogatory word to say about you, Cal. In all the conversations, and there were many, he held you in the highest esteem. He thought you were the most beautiful girl in the world, smarter than he was, and better able to get him to do most of the things that you wanted to do. What a great couple you made, and we'll make again. Same with you kids, always proud of what you accomplished, and even what you didn't. I think it's called unconditional love. Well, enough said. Nice guy, wow. I think I put him way up on a pedestal. Why not? So you think you've known a nice guy sometime in your life, and he must have been the Mr. Nice Guy Bob Allen. I'm so glad it's Bob Allen, not Bob Nelson, but that's another story. The epitome of nice and good. How about this? You didn't ever want to tell him you were going to change something on your house, build something, need something done, bums the work. Because eventually here comes Bob. Just to let you know that he can do just about anything with wood. Refurbishing, building something, construction, he was one of those guys that did these kinds of things. He needed to be done right. Because here he comes with his expert advice and always going to jump right in and help or just do it himself. We were at the Cabin Strawberry one weekend. How he liked the mountains and the solitude. We were cooking outside with a barbecue, the gas stove. I looked around and said, "You haven't got anything to put this stuff on." So I scrounged up some chairs and he pulled some stuff over and he made do. Well, the next time we go up, he says, "I thought you may like these." So he pulled out 2 of these neat little tables, or 3, and puts them over by the cook stoves, and they fit just right. And there were some tables that he's made in his shop that he used all the time out back. Oh my! He comes to our house one day and he's walking in the front door and he says, "Boy, you really need some new front doors." You saw the front doors, we did. So he proceeded to get out the tape, started getting all these measurements. I say, "No way. It's too darn much hard work. We'll just hire it done." But he says, no, we'll take care of this. So we go down and find some old church doors, solid core church doors. No Bob didn't more to challenge for him. So he cuts them up and makes the measurements and brings them out. So we go to put them up and they won't work because of the frames of the house. Does he get mad? No way. He just says, we'll have to think about something else. So about 2 months later, it's in the middle of winter, Carol finds some new doors. I mistakenly tell him about them, and he insists we put them in. So him and Kathy come over one cold and wintry night, about 2, 3 in the afternoon, and we proceed to put the dang doors in. It takes about 5 hours. Temperature's in the 20s, and blowing like a hurricane. And they won't quit. It was done the right way. And they were done the right way. That's the way it was. All of us were frozen, the house of the teams. They were done the right way, and they looked that way, just the way it was. A volunteer, I'll bet you Bob's in heaven, and he has already volunteered to be the caretaker of the pearly gates. I hope he is then. I might have a chance. If he pulls enough strings, I'll get in. He told me that he liked to do things like volunteer. He just got to meet you and he felt like doing something worthwhile. Whether it was neighborhood sheriff, voting volunteer, every single dishwasher, chocolate walk luncheon supervisor. It didn't matter to him. Chocolate walk luncheon supervisor could eat about any sandwiches he wanted. He could pretty well, with the help of my guide Carol, talked me into doing or going anywhere or anything. So he talked me into going to the art festival in Park City one year. Oh boy, what was I going to do at the art festival? He knows I don't know how to do that type of thing very much, so he takes me aside and he said, your wife and my wife just love to shop, don't they? Well, what will you do? You start out with it, try and get a hold of the checkbook, got a chance of that. And then tell them to just get ahead, go ahead, take their sweet time, we will find them and take them to lunch later. He pulls me aside and then he says to me, we'll take our time, find a nice shady bench somewhere, get us a nice cold Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke in a pinch, and watch all the fantastic people go by. So that's what we would do. Wifeys were fine, we were having a blast watching the people and shooting the blank. He loved to watch people. Never made fun of anybody, discussed them all. He was an artist. But you didn't know that, did you? So he would take me to the artist booths, and we would look at the art, and he would tell me about what it was, and he even made it fun. He loved to paint. He didn't have all that much time to do it, so he said. He painted us some watercolor Christmas cards a couple of Christmases ago. Actually, they were so good, my bride framed them. He thought we were nuts. Unassuming, just a nice guy. I must say that beyond our family that anybody would like to associate with. All of them. But I have to say, your husband, father, uncle, dad, along with his sweet bride, Catherine, are number one. So many stories to tell, many good experiences. My family liked Bob. They knew how much I and Carol liked him, and they formed their own opinion of him and welcomed him and Catherine and all the family into our family. When my sweet granddaughter told Bob had died, that they teared up, and Jill, the first thing she said was, Bob was like her other grandfather. He had that way. A way that you loved him, didn't he? Just about. He was a big man of stature. When he was around my wife, he looked like Michael Jackson. Someone told me someone called him a gentle giant. How fitting. When we were saving places for the 4th of July parade, and July 3rd, by the way, he told me he just loved parades. He went to every one he could. I was just about time to rush and put out chairs and tarps. We got that time about 5 o'clock. So you can save a place for the parade the next day. The parade was to do July 4th. Well, his car pulls up and starts to unload the car out in front of where we were sitting. We'd been there for 10 hours in the heat, dying of thirst, down to 2 6-packs or 12-packs of Pepsi. So I rushed over and proceeded to tell them that we were here first. They started to give me a bunch of hope. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Bob get up, and then his John Wayne walk starts walking towards us. When they see him coming, I see their eyes get big, and they just pack up and the things, and they go away. Well, when Bob gets to me and he asks me what happened, I'm not wanting to give him a big head, I said I just had to get tough with him. He laughed and said, "I'll bet." Little known that if I had let him get to us, I believe he would have made sure that they had a place to watch the parade. Hardest thing, isn't it? Nice guy. Good guy, caring guy, loving guy. Put him on a pedestal, you bet. Well, I'm about done. For you who are not religious, or to those of you who are, here it comes. I could not tell you how he loved the Lord. He was a very spiritual man. He had a great testimony. We had some good, fulfilling talks about religion, and I testify to you that if I lived the way he lived, have a very good chance to see and be with him again. Well, as all that believe in the precious gift of life after death, I feel in my heart that we would be with him and our families and our friends that have gone before, there to welcome us there, but a comfort for those who believe in the next life, as he did. That's it. Thanks for the memories. Hold them close. Then there was this guy named Bob. Put him up on a pedestal. You bet. Thank you.
No life without its hunger. Each eternity. You lift me up so I can walk on mountains. You lift me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulder. You raise me up to be more than I can be. You lift me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You lift me up to more than I can be. You lift me up to more than I can be.
About 3 weeks ago, Catherine and Bob approached my wife and I and invited us and our very dear mutual friends, David and Jeannie Gom, to come to her house for a spectacular evening party to celebrate life, to celebrate February, and to celebrate chocolate. She called it a chocolate kiss party. And the idea is that for one night, we were going to throw away taste, good health, calories, the food pyramid, and dine on nothing but chocolate. The richer, the more decadent, the better. And we were all supposed to bring something. This was going to be my contribution. I went to a gourmet soda shop, if I get this out, and I bought a number of bottles of Longer's Gourmet Dark Chocolate Premium Soda. And I was going to serve that around with a camera. I really wanted to see Bob's face when he tasted chocolate soda for the first time. I brought this with me today because I thought maybe I'd open it and propose a toast to Bob. But I made a mistake. I opened one of the bottles and tasted it. It was the nastiest stuff anybody ever invented. And I'm really convinced, I don't know how this company stays in business, but chocolate and carbonation are not a clever combination. So here's to you, Bob. You're welcome to it. This evening was kind of reminiscent of an evening we spent a couple of years ago. And again, you got to know our wives. This is something Renee and Jeannie and Catherine concocted. But we decided to have a paint night. This time we met in our in our house, and we dined on pink. We drank pink soda, which tastes a whole lot better. We ate pink food. We had salad that was largely pink. We had pink desserts. And then afterwards, we met in the basement and watched both of Steve Martin's Pink Panther movies, which is okay. The hard part was that our wives insisted that everybody wear pink. Now, for you liberated people of the 21st century, the new millennium, that's probably no big deal. But for people like Bob, born in Neanderthal times, and grown up like us in the 40s and 50s, the macho 40s and 50s, that was painful. David looked tolerable, I looked stupid. But Catherine said Bob looked, quote, adorable, which is apparently her way of saying uncomfortably awkward. Because the pinkest thing about Bob were his cheeks. And even though I was just in the household of friends, I really think he was mortally embarrassed. He pulled me aside afterwards and said, well, this night, I think it was this long night, is over. I'm going to burn this shirt. Bob was a good sport. You have to give him that. And he never did burn the shirt, and I actually saw him wear it several times after, but never in public. Bob was my friend, and I loved him. I loved what a good-natured sport he was about everything. I knew he hated being called certain things, so when I just got the devil in me, I'd pick up the phone and say, "Hi, Bobby." I don't think he was called Bobby since he was 12, and I think he was very glad to get that out of his life. Or I would call him Howard, which is about the worst thing you could have done to Howard Robert Allen. But he was so good-natured. He was so friendly. He was so fun to talk to. I just all of a sudden feel it here. You know, there's so many things that you could like about him. He hated putting jigsaw puzzles together. He was wicked and vicious at Monopoly. Oh my gosh, you didn't play Monopoly with him. He was terrible at Scrabble, and he was very good at sequence. Now, we lost most of the games that he and I played of sequence because we always teamed up against our wives, and that meant I was on his team. And I cannot see through clever chess moves. I cannot see through clever strategies. But everybody else at the table can. And I was lost, and I fouled it up time and again for Bob. And he would just, "Phil, I'm so glad I get to play with you because we always win." And then he'd joke about how we just humiliated our wives because we just slaughtered them. I was grateful for that. Bob was a people person first and last, and was never more happy than when he was talking to you. Bob made you feel like you were the center of his world when he was right there talking. And Bob was not only a great conversationalist, he was a great listener. He had a heart that was bigger than he was. He loved the outdoors. I suppose that came from growing up in California, where I'm told he raced his bicycle on the streets like a maniac. He once told me he knew the streets of his area of Sacramento like the back of his hand. And when he got older, he fell in love with the redwoods and the forests and the hills and the mountains of California. And long before we ever heard of words like environment, ecology, conservation, these words had become part of his very soul and his very being. Bob loved people. Bob loved nature. Bob loved the outdoors. And for you precious people here, Bob loved you with a special focus on his family. He loved his children. And I know, because he expressed it to me sometimes, that it was very hard for him to express that love. So I'm here today to tell his children and his grandchildren, and you, Catherine, how much he had told me in the past personally. He loved you and cared about you, even though sometimes he said he fouled things up. There's no doubt in my mind Bob was not perfect. But unlike so many of us, he was working to become that way. And I don't know what it is about fire in Bob. He loves setting things on fire, which I thought was interesting because he, at one point in his life, was a professional firefighter. And he spent hours telling us, regaling us is a better word, about firefighting and the dangers and what it was like. And then the next thing you know, he was lighting a fire. But also, it reminds me of something. Years ago, Renee, my wife, and I got up very early to drive our son to meet a friend. They were going out of state together to go to a car show, and they wanted an early start. So we got the car loaded and ready for him to go, and we drove him downtown to meet his friend. It was about 5:30, 5:40 in the morning. It was a cold, frosty day, and there was nobody on the streets. And when we turned to go south from 800 North onto University Avenue, we could see clear down there. And I remember thinking as we drove along University that there must have been some kind of major car accident down by Center Street, because there were so many blue and red patrol lights flashing. But as we got closer, we also noticed that not only were there a lot of police cars and the road was blocked, but there were also a lot of fire trucks. And to our horror, we noticed that the Provo Tabernacle was on fire. Now, Bob and Catherine had responsibility to some degree or other for the tabernacle, and they loved that building. So we got our son situated, and then we called them, and they came to watch that treasure, that jewel, that physical heart of Provo burn. And with a fireman's eye, Bob would point out this, and he'd point out that, and he'd say why the firemen are doing that, which actually might seem counterintuitive to us laymen, and why they were doing this. And at one point I asked him, was there any hope for the building? And he said, no, I think it's gone. And he was right. The building burned the rest of the day. I later went and talked to Bob about it. Like everybody else in Provo, he was heartbroken. But then the old tabernacle just sat for months. And we all, like you, speculated about what was going to happen. And Bob said one thing, and I said one thing, and our wife said another thing. We just talked about it. And then came that night in General Conference, most of you remember, when we learned that the old building was going to be rebuilt. But it was also not only going to be rebuilt, it was going to be reborn. And Bob and Catherine and I and Renee sat and we watched the groundbreaking. And we thought, how marvelous that this old tabernacle, which had served the community and served the people in Provo, was now going to serve God. And it's been under construction for over a year, and it'll be over a year before it's done. And it breaks my heart Bob isn't going to be there to see it. But the interesting thing about that tabernacle, come temple, is now I can look back and see how much it reminds me of Bob. Bob was tabernacled in 1938. And Bob served the Boy Scouts. Bob served the forests of California. Bob served his community. And without going into a whole lot of detail, like the tabernacle, there was a time he crashed and burned. But like the tabernacle, God stepped in and took a hand. C.S. Lewis once said that when we allow God into our lives, He enters the hovel, the shack, the hut that we have made of our lives, and He starts rebuilding. And we expect that when it's all over, we'll be a nice little cottage with a neat prim garden, a nice shade tree in front, and a picket white fence around it. But that's not God's plan. He takes out His saws and He takes out His hammers and He makes a fearful din, because God intends to turn each one of us into a magnificent palace, into a temple where He can dwell in spirit. And Bob, like all of us, has gone through a fearful racket of banging and clanging on the inside as God is turning him into a temple where the Spirit of the Lord can dwell pure, where pure love of Christ can dwell. Bob isn't completed, but the master builder has simply switched him from one workbench to another, where Bob can finish the work that Christ began. And I really am looking forward to the time when Bob, like the rest of us, can be the purest temple of God's love. And when we look in Bob's eyes, we will see Bob, but we will also see Christ. We will see our departed friend from last Monday, and we will see Father. And we will see love, pure and unfeigned. That's where Bob is right now. And God isn't finished. And as soon as I say that's where Bob is right now, I doubt it very much, in the sense, I really hope he's here. I hope he's got his arms around each one of you at different times. And he's whispering into your heart, I love you, I miss you, but this is all right. This is good. We are all in the hands of God. Bob, I love you. And I miss you. And you haven't been gone a week. I'm going to miss his cooking. He made great spaghetti. He made really good chicken out of French dressing. That was good. I'm going to miss our reading parties. Catherine and Bob would invite us over to their house to read a good book and have some quiet refreshments. And we would sit out in the yard, we'd sit in the living room, we'd sit in the cabin. And when we were at the cabin, our reading parties usually meant the ladies read or talked, and Bob and I and David fell asleep somewhere. I'm going to miss shaking hands. Clutching Bob's hand was like grabbing a catcher's mitt. I'm going to miss his big cuddly hugs. I'm going to miss the twinkle in his eye when he said, you take care now, dear. I'm going to miss my friend. But the joy is, I know, and you know, I'm preaching to the choir here, that friends and loved ones are never truly parted. In this life, when we're gone, our memories burn in our hearts. And we remember the good times, and with God's blessing, we forget the bad things. And then, when it's our turn, which is coming all too soon, and all too surprising, and all too quick, we can throw our arms around each other again, never to be parted again. and to share the new experiences that we are looking forward to having, hand in hand with God, hand in hand with our loved ones, hand in hand with our friends forever. God bless you, Bob. God bless his wonderful family. And God bless us all. We have a bottle of chocolate soda. First come, first served. And I say these in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Well, Bob, I hope you've enjoyed this. That time to break away from that great reunion that you've had these past moments, years, whatever it is, in the eternities. I think you'd be and are so pleased to see so many friends, so many family members, and the love that everyone carries in their heart for you. I've sat and looked at this photo of Bob and Kathleen. It was taken on the day they were sealed in Salt Lake. I took the photograph. And I've looked at that many times in my own little album. Looked at those faces. What love. What amazing love. About 20 years ago, I pulled into the driveway next to Bob and Catherine, having planned to go to graduate school for a while. And the first thing, Bob pops up, this giant of a guy, and forcibly welcomes me to the neighborhood. Though speaking of hugs, I learned of that right off the bat. And in that time that we had next to Bob and Catherine, there were many milkshakes shared. In the middle of the night, he'd come over and say, "Don't you feel like going to get Purple Cow?" And I would say, "Sure, let's go." And we would imbibe. But it was much more than that. It was a sweetness of being around those two people that really filled us up. It even put on extra pounds. Bill spoken of the food. Well, yes, I know about that. I would only like to say this about them. Of all the friends I have, and I have many, dear and good friends, I have never had one as kind and generous of spirit as Bob. Unfailingly kind, unfailingly generous of all he had and all he was at any time. I hope I can measure up to that somewhere along. And I'm glad, Bob, that you went first, because he's a year older than me. So that prepare the way. And I know that wherever you are, if I go there, that will be a good spot. It'll be a happy spot. And I will love it as I love you. And Catherine.
Well, since everybody's being so shy, I'll stand up here real quick. Dallas is going to... Can you all hear me in the back?
Don't get excited, I'm not singing. So here's a picture. So when I was 5 years old, when I first met Bob, his favorite story to tell me was that he was best friends with Ramsey. So Dallas made this picture of Bob's face as Ramsey. And when I went to school and we were learning about Ramsey, I was so excited to brag about how my dad was Ramsey's best friend. Well, then the teacher kindly said, "That's way too many years before your stepfather was born. I'm sure they weren't best friends." But still over the years, he continued to tell his fun stories about he just continued to tell all my friends how he was friends with Ramsey, and I'd look at their faces to see if they believed him or not, and they believed him, so I wasn't too far off of believing him, but I have very many fun memories of Bob. He was pretty much my dad. 26 years. He will just be missed, and I love you, Bob.
No, I'm not singing either. Funny thing is, I was debating on getting up and speaking, and I left my cell phone in the bathroom, so I was like, very funny, Bob. Made me forget that I would actually get my butt out of the chair. So, my memory of Bob, I guess the biggest thing, he was a constant cheerleader, and I didn't even realize how big of a cheerleader he was for me. And as I was sitting here listening to everybody and listening to Bill, I just realized how selfish of me to think that I was the only one, that he was my biggest cheerleader. He was mine. And I'm just curious, because I think he was such an amazing cheerleader, an amazing supporter. Like, how many of you believe he was your biggest cheerleader? Like, I would hope, half the room would raise their hands. So, I'm expecting a few Facebook likes from Bob in heaven, and he would always call, and he'd always be checking up on all my photos and everything online, keeping track of me, and he'd call to hear the latest stories and how things were going up in Salt Lake, the big city. I've moved up there now, and he was always just so proud of me and just everything I did, and it was always good to hear his voice, and I'd always pick up his calls and chat with him about what was going on, and Mike went dead. Anyway, I just wanted to thank him publicly for being my biggest cheerleader, and finally got over my teenage brattiness when we resolved the Ramses and Pumpkin thing. I was able to kind of get over myself and get over my ridiculousness, really, is all it was. So I grew up and grew very fond of him and fell in love with him. He was one of my biggest cheerleaders, so I just wanted to thank you for that.
I'm just a friend of Bob's. Can you hear me? Okay. Unlike Frank Sinatra, I do not know how to use a microphone. I've known Bob for about 15 years. I guess when I think about it and sitting back there, obviously he was a big man, but he was also a very generous man. And for such a big guy, he could have been a mean guy and really got away with it. And I never saw anything like that. Wasn't a perfect guy. None of us are. But when I think about it, generosity, giving, putting up with me, it's not an easy thing. When Bob and I came together was in talking about our own very young lives. To shaped by World War II. Awful events. Many of the penalties were very, very young, mostly in terms of absent parents, disruptions. Same thing has been going on the last 10 years. But then on the other hand, we also talked about our teenagers. And I believe it that Bob is a good guy, seems to be a good Mormon. But I also knew him as a teenage smarty in terms of reminiscing. He was a real guy. He had a great time. I used to tease him that tattoo. And he said, I said, what's with the tattoo? And he said, well, that's the car club I belong to. And I said, Bob, it was a gang. And I'm missing a whole lot already. Visiting. So I'm sure Catherine and I will stop by and go, Bob, like I already do. Anyhow, thank you.
Hello. I'm Dave. I'm no one of importance, and I'm no one special. I probably have known Bob a lot less than most of you. But when I was with Bob, I felt special. And I felt important. You know, that's how he made my wife feel. Can you imagine? That's how it made most of you feel. And to me, that's what was special about Bob.
I'll take it up. My name is Curly Elkin. I'm Bob's youngest. Are you youngest? Yeah, youngest son's best friend. And I've known Bob for about 8 years. And the main thing that I can say is that there is an old adage that people will never remember things you do. They'll just remember how you made them feel. And Bob always made me feel good. That's the main thing. He always made me feel good and feel welcome. And he always called me their weekend son because I would camp out at Stratton's place on the weekends. And he always gave us space to be crazy and to be teenagers. We never got crazy enough for Stratton to get a tattoo like Bob, but he could have. And I know that Bob would have been fine with that. And that's the main thing. That's the one thing I see common with everyone that shares is that Bob made them feel good. That's all. Thank you.
I want to read a message that my son Harvey sent. And I was going to read it from the cell phone, but my body is almost run out. So I wrote the message here anyway. So Irene is speaking. Bob was a helper. He taught me how to refinish pianos, which was my ego project. Without his mentorship, I would not have finished. He also painted my alto saxophone black, which was really cool. I still have it from Harlem. And yes, Bob was a helper. I remember a very touching moment that he gave to me when my son was leaving for MTC on his mission. I thought the day before in the morning, I said, okay, Armin is going to go out from the car and my daughter had a baby in her arms, and I said, okay, I need to manage my luggage. As soon as we get there, I need to grab everything and I don't know how I'm going to do it. But anyway, and I never thought that Bob was there at
NBC, it was a surprise to me. I never thought that somebody was reading and helped me. But Bob was so kind. I didn't have time for anything. He just grabbed everything and ran with the whole luggages and I don't know, just disappeared with them. And it was a really touching moment for me to just his help. And yeah, he always helped somebody. I remember him working hard always in his workshop. And he was a fun guy. Thank you.
So I just had two kind of random memories that I remember with my grandpa Bob. And when I was younger, every year since about 6th grade, I would come down to Utah for spring break. And every spring break, I would get a call from my grandpa Bob, and we would meet up, and he'd take me out to lunch. And I just remember one year, we went to this little drive-in up somewhere in Orem. Ripples, it was called Ripples. And I remember having this lime slushy, and it was the best thing ever. I just loved it. And I just can remember sharing those memories with my grandpa Bob, and it was so fun. I loved it, and I really looked forward to coming down and seeing him. Just kind of one other funny thing was when I was getting married earlier this summer, just remember my grandpa pulling me aside and was like, is this a good boy? Like, do I need to take him out back or have a chat with him? Is he going to take care of my little girl? And that kind of thing. And he just, on the day I got married, he was like, you know, you don't have to do this. We can run away still. I can take you away. I'll buy you a plane ticket. And it was so sweet. And he loved that. But I just remember those. And he was so fun and always had fun things to share.
So, my name is Desmond Ellens. I'm also one of the grandkids. I remember my fondest, I guess, memories, because there's lots of them, from Grandpa, is when it always, so Stratton and Grandpa would always have their birthdays at the same time of year. So we would meet up and have one big birthday party for both of them. And then before the party started, me and Stratton would never plan on having a sleepover. But by the end of the party, we would convince both of our parents to let us have a sleepover at their house. But one thing I always remember about Grandpa is that Grandma would go to bed early, because she always had some big thing to do the next day. And so me and Stratton would stay up way too late and get into way too much trouble, but Grandpa always would keep our mischief a secret and always give us way too much candy and goods and sweets and let us play way too much video games. And Grandpa always had our back and let us get away from it because he always said that it was Stratton's birthday and his birthday, and so we just needed to have fun. And so I just remember all those, it seemed like year after year after year, of staying over at Grandpa's house that one night. It was always fun. I always looked forward to it. But it was never planned, but we seemed to always get away with it. But anyways, that's kind of my memory of Grandpa, is that just that playful, big giant that would let us get away. And then when we wake up the next morning, because it was always a Saturday, there would be the Sunday comics, and we'd read the comics with him. I always remember that. That was always a huge part. He would be very selfish and wouldn't give us to me until he was done, but he would always let me read the comics with him. So anyways.
I'm Cindy Butcher. My husband couldn't be here, but he wanted me to stay. His good memory of him is whenever he'd see him out in the community or at the grocery store, he'd say, "Hi, my good friend," with this great big smile. You like that?
Oh, did you put me in the car?
This is probably more family time than people from the back, you know. I just want the family to know how much the community appreciates Bob and Catherine. They're people who have done so much, and it's so appreciated. My name is Louis Billings. I used to work for Bob and Catherine. I can't stand here with any authority to express anything officially on behalf of the community, but there are so many of us that appreciate the good that's come from your family. You know, there are people who often have a lot to say. You never want to leave an open mic in front of an elected official. people who really make a difference aren't necessarily the people that have a lot to say. Often it's the people who just do the right thing. And Bob was one of those who just did the right thing. There were people who were asked to usher the Cutting Center for the Arts that would probably leave their close at the first convenient moment that they could. Not Bob. I know that because I often arrived at things late. He would be there and help facilitate that in a gracious, appropriate way. But he did the right thing. Another thing that I appreciate about Bob is he was at peace with everyone. There's a text of scripture that encourages all of us to seek to be at that point in our life where we are at peace with everyone. And I think Bob was. I don't think Bob agreed with everyone. But he didn't have to punch him out and let him know he didn't agree when he didn't agree. I think that's a great example for all of us. Now, I don't know if that picture's still up. My eyes are losing kind of some of their best capacity, but in the back, that almost looks like not Ramsey's, but Catherine and Bob. And I think when you take that perspective, you come to have an even greater dimension of respect for Bob. I hope this family knows how appreciated and respected and how valued Bob was and Bob is, because Bob still is. And I think he knows what you're doing. And some of the things that you do will perhaps pain him. I think there was a prophet that once said that. Let's have him be pleased with what you do. Your potential's immense. Good people go to a good place. I think that's where he's gone. So thank you, Catherine and Phil.
Hopefully I can talk and get through it. I haven't known Bob very long. I am Stratton's wife, and I just love that man. He made me feel just like his daughter. And every time I called or he called on the phone, he would say, "Is this my favorite daughter-in-law?" And he just, made me feel so sweet and special. And a funny memory I have of Bob is he would always tease me because I ate really healthily, and I would get Catherine, I would give her new ideas of how to eat more healthy, green smoothies and whatnot, and he would always tease me and, blame me for him having to eat more healthily because of Catherine making him do that. But I just loved it so much. We would always try to, anytime we would send Christmas presents or come over for a visit, we'd try to sneak him some treats. I don't know if you knew that, Catherine. But he loved that. And he would always, any opportunity he had to make a side stop on the road, he'd stop and get a big Diet Coke. I just love that so much. It was his treat. Catherine wouldn't let him have that, but I just love that man so much, and I just being here with all of his family and all of these wonderful people that love him and knew him. I just really felt his love here, because he knew how to love. That was his gift. He knew how to love. And I see that legacy of love in his son and his family and all of his friends. And I just love him. And I'm just so grateful, so privileged to have known him. So thank you very much.
to close, unless anyone has any pressing thoughts they really want to share before I close up. Alright, so to close, basically I just want to really thank Provo City for letting us use the rec center, and thank all of you for being so helpful in providing food, support, comfort, flowers, your time, your energy, everything like that. Now here I go. So, when it comes to my dad, you know, the thing I think I've realized the most this past week is just how grateful I am for him. How grateful every single one of you guys are for him too. He touched us all in our own ways. He knew just what we needed in our own ways at our own times. You know, I talked to him pretty often when I was out in North Carolina, and it was always so funny because he'd always tell me exactly what was going on in everyone's lives, multiple times. You know, I feel like I know exactly what is going on in 90% of you people's lives, friends, families, the like. I know what activities you guys have done, I know what's going on, marriages, kids, everything like that. And I don't know if I'm talking to any of you, I know if I'm talking to my dad, because he loves you guys so much, and he just loves talking about all of you guys, and how great you make him feel too. And so, you know, the big thing I think, you know, if I could sum up what the message I've really gotten from everyone today, and what I feel most, is just an incredible sense of gratitude and thankfulness for Bob, for Dad, whatever you want to call him. He was a very good man, and we all love him so much. And we all want to say thank you in our own ways, and I know you guys did a great job showing up today, and I know that he is grateful for you guys, so I just want to say thanks on his part, if I can be so bold, but also thanks from me, from my mother, from all of our family and friends, and we love you all so much. Thank you for everything, and thank you, Bob. And there's food in the back. And the table. Sign the pictures. Enjoy yourself. Let's have some fun.
All the